Some people see flashes of light, shadows, or phantoms appearing in the edges of sight. As a scientist, I don't believe in the supernatural lurking in our peripheral vision. But what happens when I started experiencing these myself? This is my story. I've always been a man of science, my world comfortably ordered and explicable through logical deduction and quantifiable data. My name is Elias, and up until a few weeks ago, I had the calm assurance of someone who firmly believes that everything can be explained through rationality and empirical evidence. But now I'm not so sure. You see, it all began subtly, so subtly that at first, I could pass it off as figments of an overworked mind, merely stress manifesting in odd ways. I would be reading a book or typing away at my computer, and a shadow would dart just at the edge of my sight, something lurking but never quite visible. I'd snap my head trying to catch a glimpse, but there was nothing. A trick of the light, I would think, or perhaps just my glasses smudged. Days passed, and the peripheral phantoms, as I began to label them, grew more consistent and increasingly aggressive. No longer just shadows, they took on ghastly forms, indistinct yet viscerally unsettling, whispering unintelligible murmurs that seemed to hiss with malevolence. I'd feel their eerie presence beside me, behind me, always lurking just out of clear sight. My life, which was once veiled in the comfort of normalcy, was now constantly interrupted by these uninvited entities, peering at me from the peripheries. And with each passing day, my skepticism, rooted deeply within my logical mind, battled against the terrifying irrationality of what I was experiencing. My home, a quaint little two-bedroom house tucked away at the edge of the suburbs, became a daunting battlefield between my sanity and the eerie occurrences. In the light of day, it was as normal as one could expect, cozy even. But once the sun dipped below the horizon, shadows stretched across the walls, twisting into grotesque dancing figures in the corner of my eye, teasing my sanity with their fleeting existence. My nights became an insomniac theater of horrors. I'd hear soft whispers beneath my bed, see figures standing in the dim light of the hallway, but direct confrontation was ever elusive. When I would turn to face them, there was nothing but the empty remnants of what my mind swore was once there. Was this madness, or was I being tormented by entities far beyond my understanding? Friends, colleagues, even family began to worry about me. My eyes, once vibrant and curious, now sagged with dark circles, the reflection of sleepless nights and incessant fear. I found myself isolating from them, unable to share my dread without sounding utterly insane. My work, once a source of joy and fulfillment, became a dreaded endeavor as the apparitions did not confine themselves to my home. My laboratory, once a sanctuary of reason and discovery, was now tainted by the same intrusive entities. Beakers would tremble, computers would glitch, all under the silent watch of the peripheral phantoms. As weeks melded into months, the physical world around me started losing its tangibility. My food tasted like ash, and melodies and music were reduced to mere vibrations of sound, all dulled by the constant anxiety that prickled at the back of my neck. I, a man of steadfast logic, had become a puppet to the unseen, an unwilling participant in a paranormal play that had no discernible script or conclusion. But surrender was not in my nature, and so, with a mixture of dread and desperate defiance gnawing at my core, I decided to dive headfirst into the abyss, attempting to uncover the truths of the elusive apparitions that lingered just out of sight, yet so terrifyingly present. The scientist in me demanded answers, even if those answers lay beyond the familiar realms of logic and reason. Thus began my pursuit into the unknown, a path that would entwine the certainties of science with the unsettling enigmas of a world unseen, a world that teetered just on the edge of reality, always whispering, always watching. I was falling, it felt like, into an abyss where the norms of reality blurred into an opaque haze. But within that fear was a spark of defiant resistance, the part of me that refused to be silently victimized by the incomprehensible. I had to know, had to understand what these entities were and why they had chosen to haunt the peripheries of my existence. First, I sought refuge in the logical consulting doctors, therapists, and even an ophthalmologist to scrutinize my physical and mental well-being. Scans, tests, analytical sessions, all leading to the same inconclusive verdict. There was nothing ostensibly wrong with me. My anguish was met with sympathetic but disbelieving stares. Undeterred, I cast my scientific skepticism aside and delved into the arcane, exploring the dark underbelly of supernatural beliefs and practices. Books on ghosts, spirits, and ancient entities piled high on my desk, their words a mix of cautionary tales and rituals meant to tap into the otherworldly. During one of my obsessive late-night research sessions, a forum post caught my weary eyes. Peripheral entities, a glimpse beyond. Skeptical but desperate, I found myself connecting with others who had experienced similar terrors, their stories echoing my own haunting experiences. We convened in a dilapidated building, the walls stained with age and neglect, an eerie silence permeating through the cracked windows. They were a motley crew, a retired nurse, a mechanic, a former priest, and a self-proclaimed psychic, all bound by the shared trauma of being touched by the unseen. Anna, the retired nurse, spoke first, her voice a trembling melody of fear and determination. "They've taken everything from me," she whispered, but I refused to let them have the satisfaction of breaking me completely. Her eyes gleamed with unshed tears and unbroken resolve, and so, we found solidarity in our shared despair and determination, becoming reluctant soldiers in a battle against the indefinable. Our meetings became a regular occurrence, sharing experiences and pooling our collective knowledge in an attempt to find answers in the inexplicable. Our exploration took us through abandoned buildings, ancient libraries, and into the depths of forgotten lore, always seeking, always questioning. Each location brought its own chilling experiences, distant whispers in the dark, shadows that slithered away as we cast our lights upon them, the cold brush of unseen fingers upon our skin. Yet, the answers we sought remained maddeningly elusive. We discovered tales of an ancient entity, a being that dwelt in the shadows of reality, feeding off fear and chaos, always just out of sight yet ever present. However, the deeper we probed, the more we were plagued by misfortune and tragedy. James, our mechanic, was the first to fall victim to the unseen vengeance of our spectral adversaries. He was found in his garage, eyes wide in eternal terror, his surroundings untouched, yet tainted by an unspoken dread. His death, officially ruled as a heart attack, left us shaken but morbidly determined. The atmosphere amongst us became heavier with each passing day, weighed down by the tangible dread that we were poking at something that wished fervently to remain hidden. Yet, we persisted, drawn helplessly forward by the desperate need for answers, and perhaps vengeance for a life unjustly claimed. In our pursuit, my world became an insidious blend of the living and the dead, the entities that haunted my peripheries becoming bolder, their whispers becoming decipherable, chanting ancient curses that reverberated painfully in my skull. My health deteriorated, my reflection revealing a gaunt, haunted version of the man I once was. Yet, within my hollowed eyes burned the unwavering determination to unearth the dark truths that lurked in the unseen fringes of our world. My notes became a chaotic mess of theories, rituals, and desperate scribbles of a man balanced precariously on the brink of madness and revelation. I could feel myself teetering, yet the abyss that whispered sweet promises of oblivion was resisted by the final shreds of my resolve. As the mysteries deepened, wrapping us in a cocoon of despair and defiance, we could feel the unseen eyes upon us, watching, always watching from the peripheries of our unraveling sanity. In the depths of our desperate pursuit, the threads of what was real and unreal began to weave a tapestry of torment. My waking hours became inseparable from nightmares, both realms saturated with shadows that mocked and sneered. My companions and I became gaunt specters of our former selves, worn down by the relentlessness of our unseen adversaries. In a last, desperate bid for answers, we found ourselves drawn to an ancient, crumbling manor, whispered to be the nexus of spectral activity. My steps across the decayed floorboards echoed through the desolate halls, a dirge for the sanity I once held dear. Cobwebs adorned every corner, like mournful decorations paying homage to long-lost residents. Anna's voice quivered. "This is it, Elias, I can feel them. They're all around us." Her eyes darted nervously at the corners of the dimly lit room. Despite the paralyzing fear that sought to tether my steps, we pushed forward, deeper into the malevolent heart of the dilapidated structure. Here, the air seemed saturated with anguish, the walls weeping with tales of horror and sorrow that stretched through the epochs. In the cavernous bowels of the manor, amidst relics of forgotten lives and eras, we found it, a mural, ancient yet oddly pristine, depicting beings that resided in the spectral boundaries of reality, their forms both mesmerizing and horrifying. They seemed to dance and writhe, ethereal yet brimming with a dark vitality, their eyes locked onto ours with an intensity that transcended the ages. Anna, ever the resilient soul, stepped forward, her fingers tracing the contours of the ghastly figures, a murmur of ancient chants escaping her lips. The air grew palpably denser, the shadows in our peripheries pulsating with an unseen energy that caressed the edges of our consciousness. And then, they spoke. Not with words, but with images and sensations, a flood of emotions and memories not our own, cascading through our minds with violent intensity. Visions of epochs past, civilizations risen and fallen, of joy, love, war, and despair. In the chaotic tempest of psychic communication, a semblance of understanding began to form. These entities, these peripheral apparitions, were not just tormentors, but also tormented, bound to the fringes of existence, unable to interact with our world in any way, but through the briefest of apparitions and the subtle manipulation of our darkest emotions. I sensed their longing, their desperation to be seen, to be understood, to be released from their eternal prison on the edge of perception. Yet interwoven with that desperation was a malevolence born of eons of solitude and despair, a jealousy of the living, and a bitter satisfaction in our fear. Anna collapsed, her strength sapped by the intense connection, and as I rushed to her side, the boundary between our worlds momentarily thinned. For the first time I saw them, truly saw them, not just as shadows in my periphery, but as entities of substance, of horrifying beauty and palpable malevolence. Our eyes locked, and in that eternal instant, an unspoken pact was formed. Our pursuit of understanding had led us to this confluence of realities, and we were forever changed, entwined with the shadows in a spectral dance that defied the boundaries of life and death. The entity receded, the palpable darkness lifting ever so slightly, and I was left kneeling on the ancient dust-laden floor, Anna's limp form in my arms. Our pursuit for answers had brought us to the precipice of understanding, yet also left us teetering on the brink of madness. We had peered into the abyss, and it had stared back, entwining our destinies with the shadows that lurked just out of sight. In the ensuing days, the apparitions that had once tormented us receded into the dark recesses from whence they came. Yet they were never truly gone, always lurking, always watching from the peripheries of our existence. The answers we sought were found, yet they provided no solace, no resolution, only further questions and the lingering dread of the unseen. We had delved into the unknown and returned irrevocably altered, cursed with the knowledge that we were never truly alone, and that the shadows in our peripheries held secrets far beyond our mortal comprehension. And so, we lingered on, half in the world of the living, and half in the spectral abyss, our lives forever haunted by the entities that dwelled just out of sight, the horrifying enigma of the elusive apparitions eternally etched upon our tormented souls.